What's up, Navigating Academia family? This is your buddy Dr. J. Phoenix Singh coming at you to be able to answer a valued viewer's question. Now, you guys know that I love you. Please take a second and help the channel out immensely. Everybody who's watching this video, do me a huge favor and just hit that thumbs up button before we get started here. Like I said, it helps the channel out a ton in terms of making sure that all of our content gets out there to the broader academic community, and also so that it prioritizes it for current subscribers. Okay, that kind of shows up in their little mini feed. So let's go ahead and hit it for today. Today's question comes from Nisi. Nisi, thank you so much for your question. I appreciate you watching. Nisi's comment was on one of my favorite videos on this channel, which if you haven't watched it, check it out. It's called Academia is a Blood Sport. Learn the #1 key to succeeding in academia. I made that video back when I had the big old bushy beard, big old red couch, this kind of stuff. So make sure to watch that video. It's a lot of fun. It tells you one of the craziest stories from my entire academic career. So make sure that you watch that one. Again, it's called Academia is a Blood Sport. If you put that all in quotes, blood sport is one word. Let me tell you right now, you're really going to enjoy it. So pop that into YouTube after this one. Check it out. So here's Nisi's question. Nisi says, Dr. Singh, excellent video. Thank you, Nisi. Will you please consider doing a video on adjunct professors and the pros and cons of adjuncts? As you're aware, they're limited tenure positions and many PhDs remain adjuncts indefinitely. Nisi, this is a great question. I can tell you my sister actually does adjuncting. So I really have kind of a front row seat to this. I have so many friends who also are full-time clinicians, but adjunct on the side. I have one friend who literally, so he's in Ohio. This is the literal situation, Nisi, just indefinitely, essentially an adjunct, okay? Because like you say, tenure track positions are very hard to come by. So there's two things I want to say kind of to be able to set the groundwork for us, Nisi, okay? So number one is that approximately 80% of all new positions in the United States, faculty positions, are non-tenure track positions, i.e. they are essentially adjunct positions, all right? However, that number could include things like being, let's say, a research professor where your money is coming in from grants, so it's kind of you eat what you kill, even though there's no usually for research professors or clinical professors, or there's all sorts of other affiliations like a clinical associate, for example. Those are not tenure track faculty member positions though, okay? So because of that, they could be kind of lumped in there. But the key thing to be able to understand is that still there's only 20% of all available jobs these days that are tenure track positions. Be sure, if you haven't already watched the channel video on does tenure actually keep you safe, make sure to watch that video if you haven't watched that one already, because that's super important if you're thinking about going for a tenure track position and you think that for some reason tenure is what it used to be and that it'll keep you safe no matter what. That's not true. Not anymore, so be sure to be able to check that out. Something people don't like to talk about, but you guys know the function of this channel is for me to be able to go in depth with you guys behind the scenes about how stuff actually functions, okay? So that said, so that's the first thing to be able to understand. It actually makes sense why adjuncting exists. Always in academia, follow the money. And what you'll find is that, particularly at private institutions, it makes an absurd amount of sense to be able to have people adjunct. Why? Because let's put it this way. Usually if you're adjuncting, per course, you're going to make anywhere from a couple $1,000, like $2,000 to $4,000. Usually that's what you're going to end up finding. And that's per, classic semester, which would be a 16-week course, 13 to 16 weeks, depending on the university in the United States. So why is this important? Because individuals have to develop, usually that's about 3 hours a week of class. That is a huge amount of effort for people to be able to put in. That's 48 hours of lectures and exercises and exams and these things that the person has to come up with in the first place. And people may think something easy like, oh, well, once I built it, then that means that all I have to do is teach it in future semesters. On the one hand, you're right, but take into consideration things like, let's say you have 20 students in the class. These students can be, these classes can be massive. These classes can be, kind of smaller seminars. Let's say that it's really small. It's like 10, right? 10 to 20 people. Still still, if you're having those folks do some in-depth essays, for example, it's not just, let's say, Scantron-based or, online-based, work that they're doing in terms of multiple choice, true or false, and so forth, you're going to have to go through those things as an adjunct. The likelihood that an adjunct is going to have a teaching assistant is relatively low in most departments, in most disciplines. So you're going to have to do that work yourself, and that is a gigantic amount of work, I'm telling you right now. Even if you have all the PowerPoints done or whatever presentation materials you like, right? It's a gigantic amount of work relative to the amount of money you're actually making. Some people, when they've actually calculated it out, they're making like $10 an hour, right? So depending on the state that you live in, they're making like less than minimum wage to be able to do the work. And that just doesn't make a lot of sense. So it's just something that's kind of good to know. So let's say that you're teaching a very high course load. You're teaching like a 4-4, which means that in the spring semester and the fall semester, you're teaching 4 classes each. So that means that even in the best case scenario, let's say you're making $4,000 in each of those, that's like $32,000 a year, which is well below the median income for all Americans individually, right, who are of working age. So this is just kind of a crazy situation that this is the case, especially when you rightfully put it that, some people who've got PhDs remain adjuncts indefinitely. This is just a really unfortunate situation, right? So again, right, that's fact number one is 80-20, right? And let's say that you've got a class of 10 people, okay? So you're getting paid for that class anywhere between $2,000 to $4,000. But the thing is that each person in that class is probably paying, several $1,000s to be able to take that class. The cheapest thing that I know kind of per unit, the cheapest is between like $1,400 to $1,500 US, and this can just go up and up and up, especially private universities. These things can be like, $3,500 a class all the way up to $10,000 a class, right? Which is a lot of money. So it depends on the kind of university you're going to. But the thing is that imagine like $100,000 worth of students, right? 10K, you got 10 students, right? So think about that profit margin. That's freaking insane, right? It's a really good business deal for the university. And the thing that when it comes to adjuncting, the reason people do it is usually not for the money, which is nice. You earn a few $1,000s, right? A semester. But the big reason people do it is not to kind of like, survive only on that. Happens, but it's rare. The reason people do is because they love to teach. And to be honest with you, people just want to be called professor, right? They want to be called professor. They want to be called doctor. My running joke, which is, to be honest with you, pretty true, depending on the discipline that you're in, is that if you really want to be a doctor that bad, right, then let me tell you, the sad thing you're going to realize after you get the doctorate, right, for the most part, you're going to be called doctor twice. The first one by your family and friends on the day that you actually get the doctorate, and everyone will be like, hey, Dr. Singh, how are you doing, right? And the second time is any time after that you do anything stupid. So if you forgot your passport at home, it'll be like, really? You forgot your passport? Dr. Singh? Right? That is the second time. Now, luckily, that one hasn't happened to me, but I'm sure others have, right? In terms of losing my passport. But that's the thing is that, just getting the doctorate, sometimes, all of us have egos. I certainly do. And so that's the thing is that part of our ego sometimes is like, I want people to look up to me and view me as a thought leader and an expert in my field and these things. And you can scratch that itch and make not that much money by doing the adjuncting, right? If anybody does have experience adjuncting, feel free to put your experience down in the comments below, because I'm sure the people would love to hear about it. The good stuff, of course, the good, the bad stuff, and maybe you've experienced some ugly stuff as well. I hope not, but if you have, feel free to share down in the comments below. So that's the first point I want to make. Second point that I want to make is that in terms of adjuncting, is we're in a really weird situation right now after the COVID-19 pandemic. And the weird situation is that approximately 20% of all universities in the United States have or are projected to close. Now, why is that a problem? Problem for a lot of reasons. But the biggest one is if you want a tenure track faculty position, you've got folks who've got 30 years of teaching experience, phenomenal pedagogical skills. They have literally dozens of courses courses usually planned, to be able to, and they can launch at any time that they want. They don't have to develop any new pedagogical materials. In many cases, they've got research experience, they've got practical experience, and because of the market, they're willing to take jobs for kind of below what normal market value would be. So people who are just getting their doctorates and they really want to, they want to be tenure track professors. I have a lot of respect for that. I get it. I was a tenured full professor, right? So I understand. That's the thing, though, is that there is this massive glut of people on the market right now, and you are competing against those folks. So that's one of the reasons why adjuncting in some cases, I don't know if I would say that it makes sense, but it's something that if you need teaching experience at that professorial level, you may need to do some non-tenure track stuff initially to be able to get those experiences. Now, you guys know me, I'm a huge believer in postdocs. I initially wasn't before I did mine. Oh my gosh, mine was one of the best experiences of my life. We have loads of postdoctoral fellowship videos on this channel. We have videos about, how much do postdocs make. We have stuff about how to be able to get a postdoc supervisor and all that kind of stuff, or postdoctoral position, period. All this kind of stuff on the channel. So if you have any questions about postdoctoral fellowships, be sure to put them down in the comments below. All right, guys, that's what I got for you today. Thank you so much again, Anisi, for a valued question. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.